8, 8-3. So the golden bowls of incense the angels have are the prayers of the saints. Going up how often? Twice a day. Or perpetually, or regularly. It's not a once a week kind of thing, where you come to Shabbat study and say a corporate prayer together. Wait, do I have to get like this and then?
Something else, the incense was also given as a, pattern from Holy. So, also our prayers should be a pattern given by Jehovah. We need to pray those things that He gives us, and then we can expect them to be performed.
Exactly, to pray according to His will, not according to our will. We pray according to His will. Whatever we ask will be granted, but it has to be in His will. Exactly right, according to how He has given us. And Yeshua told us how to pray, right? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Yes, sir.
I was reading a little book, and I haven't got it finished, but it's about that prayer. And this gentleman just made a remark that it's really not Yeshua's prayer, because he's sinless. But it should be called the disciples' prayer.
That's a good point. But it's a good pattern. He said, here, you need to pray like this, guys, because you're a bunch of knuckleheads. No, I am. So, thank you. Okay, so prayers, incense. So if we conform ourselves to this incense altar, we at least offer prayers morning and evening. But incense is burning regularly, continually, perpetually, for all times, all generations. What does 1 Thessalonians 5:17 say? Pray how often? Without ceasing. And Ephesians 6, pray in the Spirit how often? All occasions. So, just encouragement to conform to this, because we set the foundation. Foundation is Yeshua and the apostles, and we're being built up into that, all the different stones being put together to build this. That we are this, but we have to conform to it, not try to make it fit us. Where's our brick fit, our rock fit? How are we going to make our lives look like this? Because where light's supposed to shine, to light the space in front of us. Correct? Okay. Any other comments on that? Because then we'll get into
Or is that one in the First Thessalonians?
1 Thessalonians 5:17. Yes. That's to pray without ceasing.
How do we pray without ceasing?
Good question. You have the answer?
Well, it says that Yeshua is seated at the right hand of the Father, where He continually makes intercession for us. That's the prayer without ceasing. We don't pray when we sleep. We don't pray.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, he said there. Okay, don't look at what he did. Don't look at what they did. Don't look at what they're doing. Yes, Candace.
What I see and what I've read, no one comes to the Father except through the Son.
Mm-hmm.
And this outer area is the essence of Yeshua, the shadow of. And if we're coming in, we've got to go through Him in order to get into your next section you're going to cover.
Exactly. And when you take that even further, where is Yeshua sitting?
On the right hand.
At the right hand. Okay, and speaking of, Brother Jim, I believe you have Exodus 25, 10 through 22. There's the instructions to build the ark, and there's a lot of good stuff in here.
And they shall construct an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, inside and out you shall overlay it. And you shall make a gold molding around it. And you shall cast 4 gold rings for it, and fasten them on its 4 feet. And 2 rings shall be on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And you shall put the poles into the rings on the side of the ark, to carry the ark with them. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, and they shall not be removed from it. And you shall put into the ark the testimony which I give you. And you shall make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold, make them hammered work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat, and 1 cherub at one end, and 1 cherub at the other end. You shall make the cherubim of one piece, with the mercy seat at its 2 ends. And the cherubim shall have their wings spread upward, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and facing one another. The faces of the cherubim are to be turned towards the mercy seat. And you shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony which I shall give to you. And there I will meet with you from above the mercy seat, and between the 2 cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony. I will speak to you all that I will give you in commandment for the sons of Israel.
Thank you, Jim. All right, so a lot of specifics here, and a lot of important pieces that we've seen in some of our second half studies, especially with the poles to carry the altar. What happened to the one that was on a cart?
It fell, someone
It
died.
started to fall, and someone died because they touched it. Because why? Because God's so mean.
You didn't have time to work first.
He's just holy.
He's just holy. He's not mean. He's just holy. He's just and true. But
Was it God's pattern?
it wasn't his pattern. They weren't conforming to what he said to do. Yes, Gabriel.
Do you ever think of like, man, I stared at the sun all day long and my eyes got burned. That sun is so mean. Like, how much more powerful is God than the sun? You know? There are
Good
just
point.
things you can't do.
I kept hitting my head against this wall. Man, this wall is mean. It bruised my forehead.
They weren't carrying it the way they were supposed to.
Exactly. They weren't carried the way they were supposed to. They didn't apparently have the poles in it. It was sitting on a cart. No. And the wrong people were around it to begin with on top of that. Because once that incident happened, then they got, oh yeah, wait a minute. Wait, how does it say to do this again? Yeah, I kind of got it right the second time. Okay, so what goes here inside the ark?
Testimony.
The testimony, which is what?
The law,
The law, the commands.
the instructions.
I'm not sure about that, because later he tells them to put the law in the ark. And when you look at the Hebrew, with the testimony is the aleph and the tav.
So what's the testimony?
Well, that, I think one
I
place,
believe it's the gospel.
it says that the testimony is to go out in front, but also
True.
is seen inside also, but then later manna too, so.
Yeah.
I thought it interesting though, what struck me was that it said the inside is to be covered with amber gold, which I thought is interesting. Normally, if we made a cabinet, we wouldn't be concerned with the inside, but
That's true.
here we see the inside's coated also.
Yeah, he's got it inside and out. Yeah. Okay, well, if the Aleph Tav, if Yeshua, a picture of him is in the ark, he is the Word, right? Made flesh. So the Word's still inside there, right? If he's in there, the Word's there.
Well, and it says, the word is aduth.
Is what, I'm sorry?
Aduth. The Hebrew is aduth, and it says testimony or witness.
Like odd.
And it's the feminine recording.
Well, like the testimony of 2 witnesses, the regular is odd, and then you put the top at the end, it makes it a singular feminine. Why is it
Look at
feminine?
these people know this stuff.
And Isaiah 8 tells us to the law and to the testimony.
That's
So
true.
I think, honestly, they're 2 separate things.
Yes.
the testimony would be Yeshua, and our heart is Yeshua, and we have our body, so, like our body's the temple, and our heart is so protected by everything else, by our entire body, so that is amazing.
Yeah.
The first mention is Exodus 16:34, and it says, "As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept." So, Exodus 16,
Yeah, and in 16, they hadn't been given the words from the mouth.
right.
That's true. So there's a lot of different things going on with that. Well, that throws things off just a little bit, but that's okay. Because Yeshua is the Word, and Psalm 119, verse 9, "How can a young man keep his way pure? By living according to your word. I seek you with all my heart. Do not let me stray from your commands. I have hidden your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you." So if Yeshua is in our heart, which is where we want him to be, and we're conforming to this, and he's here, we have to put him there to be there. Get all those pronouns straightened out. Let me write that one down. Oops. That's not right. And where Jeremiah 31, where does he write the Torah? Which is the Word, which is Yeshua, the Word made flesh. And this is kind of the heart of the tabernacle. And this is, if we are the tabernacle, yes, Jake?
You want to go back and chase that, grab it a little bit more
Which one?
about the testimony?
Go for it.
Okay. Going through, looking at that word where it's used in other scriptures, just trying to get a little bit more depth of meaning what it's looking at, what it's trying to say. Here in Exodus 30:26, "And thou shalt anoint the tabernacle of the congregation, herein the ark of the testimony," on that. So, the ark and the testimony are, it's put a name with. And there's several more, but here's the one I wanted to get to. Exodus 32:15, "And Moses turned and went down to the mount, and 2 tablets of the testimony." The same word is being used on all of those. Because, and not to try to prove a point, it's just trying to figure out the more depth of that.
So it's a lot of things all kind of in there.
Well, it just,
Good. Roger, did you have?
No,
Okay.
well, and just trying to give some context to that, that first mention, okay, it's actually, it's starting there, and it's talking about, they're talking about the, hang on, let me just, I'm sorry. 1634, yeah, so.
Talking about manna.
Yeah, they were talking about manna, so the people rested in the house of Israel, named it manna, and it was coriander seed, blah, 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 and then Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer full of it be kept throughout your generations, that they may see the bread that I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar and put an omer full of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations." And then we get to, "And the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept." So I don't, it's almost like this is maybe even almost a collection. Testimony is the collection of things that attest to the Lord working in Israel's life.
What you're talking about with the name, the Ark of the Testimony, the Ark which holds the testimony, which is
All those things.
all those kind of things
It
together.
doesn't appear to be just one little item.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes, Gabriel, and then Aaron.
Yeah, and then just to bring these thoughts together, so any matter is established on a testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, right?
Right,
So we know that the 2 tablets are there, so the tablets are there.
right.
We know that Aaron's rod's there, we know that the jar of manna is there, so there's 3 things here. So is this what's bringing it together? This is the testimony of these 3 witnesses. We've got the word, in stone, we've got the word that feeds us, and then we've got the evidence of the resurrection, you know, Aaron's rod is resurrection.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a little deep
That's
there,
good.
man.
Yeah, really good. Aren't y'all glad you came to hear that one? That's good. Yeah. You sure?
You just covered it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
There's the second
There's
witness.
the second witness right there, nobody just
There you
said,
go.
so. All right, so, let's see. Okay, just checking time. Like I said, Jeremiah 31, he's gonna write the law on our hearts. In Romans 7:22, what is Paul delighted in his inner being? God's law. Where Paul goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth there for a while. Let's see, because we're talking about this, and the picture that I was getting was this being our heart, where we put Yeshua, we put the Word, we put the life, where the light shines from. Deuteronomy chapter 8, flip over there if you would real quick.
Bill,
Yes.
I may have missed it because I came in late, but did you talk about the rods being permanent, the tolls, not being, like they're not to be taken out?
Yes, well, we just read it.
When Jim read it, he emphasized that point.
Okay.
Yeah, we did mention this real briefly, that they're not to be taken out. That's how we had the issue with David's
Right.
men. Yeah.
And the reason is probably because you have to be ready to take it with you?
That would make sense.
What'd she say?
Have to be ready to take it with you, why the pole should not be moved. Because you remember how all this worked. When it was done, if you remember the very end of Exodus 40, when everything was complete, the Lord came and dwelt, and the cloud came over. And then when the cloud moved, they moved. And they had certain people had certain jobs with certain things, and that could be very well a reason. So when it moved, you better get the ark and get jumping. I saw a hand somewhere, Jay.
Maybe that's just because God told you to.
Maybe it is just because God told you to.
Because I said so.
Like he said, wash in the water so you don't die. Don't bring your own fire, Nadab. Yes.
So you're trying to get at the ark being the heart, and we've kind of touched on that a little bit. Something really interesting that Mikhail and I were learning, we were studying some anatomy at home, I'm not even sure how we got there, but it really fits in with what you're saying here. In the anatomy of the heart, the right side of the heart, okay, so the left side of the heart pumps the blood that has oxygen out. Okay, so the lungs give oxygen to the blood, and the left heart pumps it out to the body, the oxygen in it. But the right heart takes the blood that doesn't have oxygen, and it brings it in to give it oxygen. So you're saying that Yeshua sits at the right hand of the Father. So that's what he's doing, he's taking all those blood cells that don't have the breath, he's bringing them into him, saying, okay, we're gonna give you breath, so then you go out and pump it the other way. So, it's just something we learned this week, but it totally makes sense now.
Cool.
Well, following out, once you have that, then you're supposed to get pumped back out to all the rest of those
That's right.
cells and bring that life
Yeah,
to them.
bring the life back. Yes.
And also the ark is the judgment seat where, God was going to give judgment between right and wrong. So we need to be judging between right and wrong. But it's also the mercy seat where he showed mercy to his people. So while we judge between right and wrong, we should also be showing mercy to people. And I think that's a big thing in the heart as well.
We shouldn't be standing on street corners in Vegas telling people they're going to hell, right? Jim has some testimony about that from his trip to Sin City with a capital S-I-N, I'm sure.
I wasn't saying they were.
Yeah, I know you weren't saying that. He was seeing that all over the streets of the Strip in Las Vegas. I guess, as Roger said, well, if you can't quote scripture, just tell people they're going to hell and you're good. No. Okay, Deuteronomy 8, chapter 2. Deuteronomy 8, verse 2. Not chapter 2. Deuteronomy 8, 2. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the desert these 40 years to humble you and to test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. So he's looking to see what's in your heart. Do you have the testimony of Yeshua in your heart? Are you keeping his commands? Now, you may want to put a cross-reference there in Deuteronomy 8:2. If you can put a cross-reference to 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 4. Paul is talking about how they're workmen approved by God and trusted with the gospel, not trying to please men, but trying to please God, who tests our hearts. So even in the New Testament, God is testing hearts. And Paul's giving that encouragement, or that justification, I guess, for his message. Okay, and then while we're in Deuteronomy, flip over to Deuteronomy chapter 30. This is where we're kind of... Deuteronomy chapter 30. And would someone read verses 1 through 10? Deuteronomy 30. This is something that really, really encourages me in these days, and I hope it encourages all of us.
And it shall be, when all these words came upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you shall bring them back to your heart among all the nations where Yahweh your Elohim drives you, and shall turn you back to Yahweh your Elohim, and obey his voice, according to all that I command you today, with all the heart, and with all your being, and with all in your children, you and your children. Then Yahweh your Elohim shall turn back your captivity, and shall have compassion on you. And he shall turn back and gather you from all the peoples where Yahweh your Elohim has scattered you. If any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under the heavens, from there Yahweh your Elohim does gather you, and from there he does take you. And Yahweh your Elohim shall bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it, and he shall do good to you, and increase you more than your fathers. And Yahweh your Elohim shall circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed, to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being, so that you might live. And Yahweh your Elohim shall put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecuted you. And you shall turn back and obey the voice of Yahweh and do all his commands which I command you today. And Yahweh your Elohim shall make you have excess in all the work of your hand, in the fruit of your body, and in the fruit of your livestock, and in the fruit of your ground for good. For Yahweh turns back to rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers. If you obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard his commands and his laws which are written in this book of the Torah, if you turn back to Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being.
Oh, thank you. Isn't that awesome?
Amen.
And isn't that just the picture of where we are and what we're trying to do? We've been dispersed. Agreed? We're not where we're supposed to be.
And just because in 11 it says, "For this commandment which I give to you today is not too difficult for you,
Right?
nor is it out of reach.
Yep.
My
Simple.
burden is lighter."
You'll notice he doesn't say if,
Yeah.
he says when.
When. Exactly. When.
So he already knows they're going to get scattered.
Exactly. When all these blessings and curses, which were the word written down. Yes, Jim?
Where are you at when you're saying when?
Verse 1.
Okay. Because in verse 10 it says, if you'll obey the Lord.
Yeah, the when is
So
you're
there
going
is-
to get scattered.
There's conditional.
The when is you're going to get scattered. The if is
Yeah.
if you turn back.
Yeah, there's a certain, his promise is unconditional,
Right.
but it's, on your part of it, it's conditional. If you,
But he already knew they were gonna get scattered, so he said, when you do
Exactly.
this.
yep, when you
Yep,
come back.
exactly.
He doesn't say if you do this, he says when.
When. So we know we're scattered. And how many times is take them to your heart? With your heart. Obey with all your heart and with all your soul. But yet, if you don't start out here and conform your life to this, because you are the temple, you are the tabernacle, can you get to that point where your heart is seeking him. Remember in Psalm 27, one thing I ask, one thing he was seeking, to be with you. Be with you. And I pray that is where we get to, that we strive to have that. I just want to be with you. It's one thing. Show me. I'll do anything you ask. Not my will, not my thoughts, not my ideas, not my opinions, not my baggage, not my upbringing, not my excuses, not my anything. He is everything. Do we live that? Do we believe that? Do we seek that? Father, thank you so much, just that you allow us to be together, that you've given us your word, which is you, which is your Son, which is our life. And I pray, Father, our King, our Messiah, our Savior, that we each individually seek you every single day, daily lay down our lives, daily washed with your word, daily keep the bread of life coming into our bodies that we might live, daily shine our light, daily offer our prayers, and daily guard your word with our heart, that we might become a tabernacle, that we might become part of the temple that you're building, that we might become part of the spiritual house, the holy priesthood. We want to be in your presence, Father. I want to be in your presence. And ask your just that you will give us wisdom, open our eyes, open our hearts. And for those in our families, for those friends we have who think we're heading the wrong direction, doing wrong things, for those at work, those at school, I just pray that we are living in such a way that there is no doubt who our King is, who our Messiah is. There is no doubt we live for you, we seek to glorify you, we seek to honor you, and we seek to be with you. Thank you for loving us so very much that you sent your Son to allow us that opportunity. And it's conditional in many ways. We have to turn to you, seek you. And I just pray for this body that we do that we function as a body, all things in common, seeking